afternoon. Thank you for making time for NTV At One. My name is Gladys Gachanja. Now, members of the civil society have poked holes at the ongoing war on corruption, which they say is a cosmetic exercise aimed at settling political scores. A report by the Africa Center for Open Governance, AFRICOG, says that the publicly driven prosecutions are a means to no end and are more likely to undermine the war on corruption more than ever. The report, which is being launched at the Laiko Regency Hotel in Nairobi, also notes that most institutions have either been captured by the state or powerful individuals to propagate selfish agendas. We are now joined by my colleague, that is Silas Apollo, with the latest on the same. Silas?
Yes, Gladys, rightly as you've put it, of course, this is a debate that has been ongoing in a number of quarters across the country. Of course, critics very critical of the ongoing war against corruption launched by President Uhuru Kenyatta and, of course, NASA leader Raila Odinga, of course, who have already joined the president in the fight against corruption after the famous handshake. There's been a lot of concerns on the war. Of course, the Jubilee government has also been divided in the fight against corruption. There's a camp led by Deputy President William Ruto, which has been accusing the president of using the war on corruption to settle political scores. So that was part of the discussion today, of course, in a report launched by the AFRICOG, which argues that Kenya has become more of a state capture. And this they mean that most of the institutions that have been tasked with fighting this, with helping the fight against corruption, have been captured by the government. I mean, most of them have been interfered by the government. That is from parliament to independent institutions like the DCI, the EACC, of course, even the judiciary, which has been complaining over and over again that the government, the executive is interfering with its affairs. A number of speakers here today were very critical of the war against corruption. Of course, they say that in as much as we need to laud the government and especially the president for taking the bold step to deal with this issue, there's still more that needs to be done, especially in terms of the prosecution, in terms of gathering of evidences, in terms of strengthening institutions, the independent institutions that are tasked with ensuring that the war on corruption is won. This, they say, is because of the sustainability of the war against corruption, which currently is not very sustainable. They gave an example, of course, of the number of scandals that we've been witnessing in the country, from the Golden Bank scandal, of course, which was witnessed during the Moi regime, to the Anglo leasing scandal, of course, which was witnessed during the Kibaki regime, and now the Eurobond saga, which has been quite of a dodgy issue in the Jubilee government. The argument is that it's been pretty hard to prosecute people who've been implicated in this graft, especially the big fish, that the war on corruption has been targeting the lowly, those who are, well, of course, who are considered the small fish, but there had been no big indictment or indictment of the big figures in the government. And that alone points a lot, of course, raises a lot of concerns. The president's intention is the war against graft. So they say a lot more needs to be done in the fight, and that if the government, if the president is intentional in the fight against corruption, there needs to be an intentional in the fight against corruption. That independent institutions needs to be tasked. Of course, the report has been tabled today. We'll be going through the report and we'll be updating in our subsequent bulletins on some of the findings of the report. What are their key recommendations on the way going forward, and what are their issues with the ongoing fight? Back to you, Gladys.
Thank you, Silas. Apollo will be giving us more details of the same even as that meeting continues. Now, the governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, has denied claims that he is sitting idle as Mumia's sugar company falls through the cracks. He has said that he is going to take stern action in seeking to save the source of livelihood for many of his people. Zakis Mosame is in Kakamega, where the governor has been speaking, and now gives us a brief of the same. Mosame, he was very passionate speaking earlier on. What else can you tell us?
Thank you so much, Gladys. We are coming live to you from the Mumia Sugar Factory here in Kakamega County, where, like you mentioned earlier, the governor for Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, stormed this factory with the intention of taking over the operations of the factory. Now, as we are speaking, he's just addressing a small congregation outside the factory premises, saying that he has intentions of making sure that the giant factory comes back to its normal operations. This is something that people are very keen at, because you remember this factory has been stagnant, has not been operating for some time now, something that makes things very interesting, with Oparanya saying that he's determined to make sure that it comes comes back to its operations, it actually raises questions. Remember, Oparanya is the chairperson of the task force that was formed by President Uhuru Kenyatta with the intention of making sure that factories, not only Mumias Sugar, but factories around the country, come back to their normal. So we are expected to be joined by the governor shortly here, who is going to also just a snapshot to tell us shortly what exactly he means by making sure that he takes over Mumias Sugar Company. Gladys, we are now glad to be joined by the governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Ambetsa Oparanya. Governor, you've been on record now shortly saying that you're going to maybe make sure that the Mumias Sugar comes back to normalcy. What do you mean by this?
The issue here is that this company has been facing problems for the last 6 years. And for the last 2 years, it actually closed. The closure of this company has affected many people in Kakamega County. As you know, this has been the major economic institution in this county, employing over 3,000 people. Now, these all 3,000 people are now on the streets. They have no livelihood. And because of this company collapsing, it has also affected the insecurity that you hear in Matungu, because most people are jobless. Now, I have decided to come in as county government. I have not come in as an individual, but as county government. We feel it's our responsibility to make sure that this company is revived. We have not come here to chase anybody from here. We have not come here to be managers of this company, but to understand the problems that are there, so that together with those who are concerned about this company, we can pull together and come out with strategies to revive this company.
Now, somebody will quickly ask that you are the chairperson of the task force that was formed by President Uhuru Kenyatta, and then you have presented a report that maybe has not been implemented. Maybe why couldn't you wait for the implementation of that report before you do this?
We have, in fact, not presented the report. The report is ready, but unfortunately, we have not presented the report because the president has been busy with other schedules, and we are likely to do that in the near future, within the next 2 weeks. But what prompted me to come here is when I saw that the company board of directors had advertised to lease properties of this company, which I thought it was defeating our strategy to revive this company.
We apologize for that technical hitch, but that was the governor of Kakamega, Wycliffe Oparanya, even as he speaks about his stance in as far as Mumias Sugar Company is concerned. He says he is not taking a backseat on this and is going forward to ensure that those that have been depending on this company earn their livelihoods, and that those tasked to ensure that it is revived actually live up to their word. Well, more details coming from the same in our subsequent bulletins. President Uhuru Kenyatta has launched the Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company, a key institution geared at making the affordable housing program a success. The company will provide long-term mortgage financing to primary mortgage lenders such as banks. The World Bank has injected 25 billion shillings towards the project, while the African Development Bank has given 10 billion shillings towards the same.
Based on international experience, mortgage refinance facilities are generally owned by the banks or institutions which use it for refinancing. Our deliberate inclusion of SACCOs in the solution in Kenya is unique and would broaden the reach of housing finance to borrowers with low and informal incomes. The Kenya Mortgage Refinance Company will be expected to provide fixed rate, long-term, low-interest funding to primary mortgage lenders, which would be passed on to home buyers.
Security matters now. A state of unrest has engulfed the Mart-Pokot border following the alleged killing of a security officer attached to the border region. It is believed the officer, who is a Pokot, lost his life after getting caught up in crossfire between the Mart and Pokot Morans. The border clashes began early February this year with 10 deaths across the divide attributed to the violence deaths between Mart and Pokot communities. The clashes are said to have been sparked by the scramble for water and pasture for animals, as well as cattle rustling, with each community accusing the other of fueling the conflict. Women and children have started fleeing their homes for safety, leading to poor attendance in local schools. About 3 schools in the region remain closed. Cross-border conflict between the Mart and Pokot communities has further been aggravated by the national government's move to disarm the National Police Reservists from the 2 communities with a view of vetting them afresh. Now, both communities claim to be exposed to cattle rustling and banditry. Dealers in second-hand vehicle spare parts have criticized the recent ban on the importation of second-hand motor vehicle spare parts by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. The traders say the ban puts a lot of jobs at risk. The dealers say there is no sustainable alternatives, as the local manufacturing assemblies in line with the Big Four agenda are yet to be set up to cater for all motorists' needs. We shall be bringing you pictures of the same later on. Now, Pauline Wangari, a prison warder who was brutally murdered in her house in Murang'a, has been laid to rest. The late Pauline, who was stabbed to death, was buried at her parents' home in Nakuru. A man known as Joseph Ochieng later confessed to the murder.
The aura of grief was palpable during Pauline Wangari Ngoe's funeral. She was laid to rest at her home in Joro, Nakuru County. Pauline's fellow officers, family and friends gave her a teary and honorable send-off. The main suspect in the murder case, Joseph Ochieng, who was captured on CCTV leaving the deceased's home on the 14th of May, claims that he met Pauline on Facebook and that they met in person for the first time on the day of the murder. In his statement to police, Ochieng stated that he stabbed Pauline several times after they got into a heated argument and left her for dead. Ochieng is also being charged with attempted suicide, as he attempted to stab himself when police conducted a search in his home at Nairobi's Makadara area. Pauline's long-term boyfriend Peterson Njiru was also brought in for questioning as a possible suspect, but was released shortly due to lack of evidence. Pauline's death brings the total number of women murdered this year to more than 40. Cases of murder against women have been on the rise since 2018.
May her soul rest in peace. Now, toxicology results are expected to conclusively close the issue of the mysterious death of 7-month-old baby Ethan Mwendo at Shalom Community Hospital in Machakos. An autopsy report revealed a new finding that the infant suffered internal bleeding in the brain prior to his death. This is believed to have been due to the chemical in the blood vessels that a toxicological result will help explain. The brain samples are still with the government chemist for analysis and will form part of a final report. Baby Ethan died on Sunday, May the 4th, 2019, after he was allegedly injected with an overdose of morphine, according to a report from Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board. The hospital was shut down and 5 suspects are in court over the mysterious death of the infant and were charged with manslaughter, among other charges. To the roads now, and Kajiado County security chiefs have agreed to release 17 Matatus impounded from 2 SACCOs following a clash with a new rival, New Lord Travelers SACCO. A Matatu was last week attacked and the driver seriously injured, leading to altercations and business rivalry. Members of the 2 SACCOs clashed with the crew of a new SACCO, New Lord, leading to severe injuries in both camps. The conflict arises from the entry of the new SACCO on the newly tarmacked Kajiado Mashuru Duka Moja route, and police police arrested and charged several Matatu operators. In a meeting organized by Governor Joseph Olelenku, County Commissioner Joshua Nkanata and County Police Commander Gladys Gachanja agreed to release the vehicles belonging to Nailepu and Sumaka Saccos that operate within the Namanga Kajiado Mashuuru Kitengela route. The County Commissioner said New Lot Sacco will not be allowed to continue with its services on the new route until the matter is fully addressed and Matatus comply with NTSA regulations. The governor announced the police will withdraw the case they filed against members of the two Saccos. Narok County has announced free entry to the Maasai Mara National Park on the 1st and 2nd of June to commemorate the 56th Madaraka celebrations that will be held in the county this year. According to Narok County Governor Samuel Tunai, the gesture aims at celebrating the beauty of the county on the day set aside for celebrating Kenya's achievement of self-rule. Preparations for the national event, to be led by President Uhuru Kenyatta, are at an advanced stage.
The 7th wonder of the world, the Maasai Mara Game Reserve, which has for 6 consecutive years have been declared the best game reserve in Africa. As people of Narok, we are really proud of this achievement and will continue to jealously conserve this important reserve for posterity and for future generations.
Kenneth Punya, a renowned Kenyan author, gay rights activist, blogger, and 2002 winner of the King Prize for African Writing, has died. The 48-year-old is known for opening up about his sexual orientation.
On Friday, it felt like there was water.
One of the country's most unpredictable presidential elections. According to observers, there were no significant reports of violence and the election appeared to be well organized.
Voting stations came to a close on Tuesday evening after Malawians voted in presidential and parliamentary elections. The elections are seen as a tough test.
25-8 and 25-10, and so off the run of Rwanda 25-10, 25-17 and 25-10 in the game 1. Kenya will face other regional champions at the All Africa Games in Rabat, Morocco later in August. And the 2018 Kenyan Premier League title could be decided this afternoon in Gor Mahia's favor if the defending champions beat Vihiga United and Bandari drop points away to Mathare United. Kogalo need just 1 point to secure an unprecedented 18th league title. In the day's other games, Kariobangi Sharks will look to turn their dismal fortunes around when they clash with Ulinzi Stars at their Afraha Stadium. Nzoia Sugar and KCB do battle at Sudi Stadium, and Kakamega Homeboys host Sony Sugar in Bukungu. Meanwhile, Chemelil Sugar and Posta Rangers will be looking to continue their fight against relegation when they take on Sofapaka and Western Stima respectively. And Gor Mahia